My bad.
Oh, you can take a second. We're live. That's fine. It's Wednesday. I'm very excited because this is actually the 100th episode of YATS. So that's kind of cool. A little tech show we started. Like, I don't even know when. When did we start this thing?
A couple years ago, at least, right?
It was, pretty sure. At least, right? 52 weeks ago, at least 104 weeks ago. March 2012. Not too bad. Larry's putting stuff in the dock. That's fine, though. You know, you can't let him straggle in late. You say we're going to start at 9. See, it's 9:02 right now. And I don't know how you guys feel about that. That makes me a little uneasy.
We're late, in other words.
Hey, that's all right. Time ain't nothing but clocks.
Time.
Shit. Clocks.
Time is a flat disk. Or something.
A hard drive?
Yeah, time is a hard drive. Just
Time
keep
is a
spinning.
carbon-based life form abstract used to monitor its own decay. That's what time is. Thunder, please.
It's way too early for that heady shit.
Thunder. Thundercleave from the Brack show. Brack's all like, "Hey, Thundercleave, what time is it?" And he's like, "Time isn't in." Yeah, great. Highly recommend it. Yeah,
Where is the link?
we're just gonna start this. If you guys are ready.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Wednesday, July 2nd, 2014. This is episode 100 of YATS. Heck yes, everybody. Episode 100 of YATS. Every week, Wednesday evening, usually. YetAnotherTechShow.com. Definitely check it out. I'm Matt Lee. That's Ant Pruitt. What's going on, Ant?
What's going on, Mr. Lee? Happy 100 episodes.
Hey, happy 100 indeed. Eric Fingermere from Attack the Androids also with us. What's up, man?
Not much. Congrats, guys. I know two are missing, but 100 episodes is really cool.
They
So
will
thanks
be
for letting me
here.
be on.
They will be here shortly. I just didn't want to delay
No
anymore.
judgment.
Also, Nick Carroll from AOTA joining
Hey,
us.
hey guys, glad to be back on a special episode.
Yeah, baby.
Good stuff. So we should start out first. We mentioned this on AOTA a little bit last night because it had like just kind of came out and nobody was really for sure what like the specifics were. But Google getting Songza. We said what? It was rumored like 15 million, and we kind of made fun of that because that was like what is 15 million in these billion-dollar acquisitions and everything, right? So
Right.
I guess 39 million, still not Instagram level.
Not big dollars, but
A good
that
chunk.
talent's happy.
Yeah, right. I'd be happy with like one of those millions. Shit.
Jeez.
But yeah, so is 39, is that the solid number, or is that just rumored? That's just
I'm still
somebody
se-
that's familiar with the deal, who was not actually authorized to speak about the terms, but went ahead anyway and said that Google paid more than 39 million. More than. So you can say Google paid more than $1. You can quote me on that. Like, okay, that's helpful. I'll be curious
Real helpful.
exactly what it was.
Yeah, that number is still a little small, but when you dig a little more into that piece, you see that they talked about making it more of a curation platform for Google Music. And I thought Google Music already had this functionality built in, where if you pick one of your songs that you've already uploaded, there's a button that says Start Radio Station,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it starts radio. That's if you have all access, of course.
Yeah.
And it'll start a radio station
Doesn't
based
it
on
do
that
that
particular
anyway?
track.
Or do you have to have
Yeah.
all access? It won't do it. It won't just like make a radio station out of what you've uploaded.
Well, yeah, it'll do it with with whatever you upload it to. That's
But
right.
it does it better with all access because then there's a broader database of tunes to choose from.
Of course. But I didn't quite get that. Maybe again, it's the people that wrote the code over there, so to speak, at Songza. Maybe they're just really daggum talented, and
I
Google
would
just
love
do what
this.
any amoeba does to a paramecium.
It would be cool instead of, because I always do this. There's so much music on there, and I really like how it knows that like what I listen to. So when new stuff comes out, it's like, oh hey, this like today the new Sadistic came out on Rhymestairs. It was really good. So it was like, hey, this is out. It would be cool instead of trying to think of what to listen to like through this giant library that you have. If you could just be like, here's what I feel like, or here's what I'm doing. If it
Mhm.
knows if I'm writing, I don't want things with lyrics, so it's going to drop some gnarly dub, drum and bass, step, whatever. But it knows
Right.
if I'm kicking back, like just chilling, maybe I want to listen to a little Snoop Dogg. I don't know. I'm asking you, Songza.
Well, maybe that's version 2. I mean, the way that it currently works is, according to Songsa, yeah, Google's whole thing is that they do everything. I mean, there's probably a Python script out there that's like, you're listening to Eminem, so you would also like to listen to Vanilla Ice or something like that.
Oh
But what
gosh.
they're doing is no judgment. What they're doing is they have these playlists based around activities. So you could have like unwinding, and the playlists are created by quote music experts. So currently there's a human doing what Google is currently doing via automated means.
Yeah. Yeah, an algorithm compared to human, choice. So it'd probably be good to add that. Like the Beats audio service also uses a team of people selecting songs and placing them into a playlist, and now that's under Apple's belt since Apple now owns Beats. So it's not surprising that Google would try to get some similar capability, although for a lot less money. So
Mike Rothman
Well,
joining us. Happy 100 episodes, sir.
hey, Mike.
Happy 100 to you all.
Mr. Rothman.
We're just discussing the Google Songza acquisition. It's a weird name. Game of Thrones made that a weird name.
Yeah,
Has
what
can
is
we all agree that Songs has a better name than Google Play Music Unlimited Radio or whatever the heck it's called right now?
Yeah, a little quicker. Rolls off the tongue a little quicker.
Yeah.
but is that reason
Why not just say Google Music?
Yeah, just Google Radio, maybe.
Google Music was free. All access is what you're paying for. What were you going to say, Mike?
Well, I was just going to say I get Songza. It's a good service. It's all right. It's kind of a Me Too service, but what's Google need with it?
That's what we said. Maybe it's just the talent that
Talent
Songza
acquisition,
had. Yeah.
or maybe
want
they
to.
have licensing agreements with the record labels that Google wants to acquire.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
a good
it's the
point.
technology. I think it's the technology, and just going off of what they said, that they are going to begin to incorporate this into Google Play Music and even YouTube, maybe. So, if it's YouTube too, it's just the algorithm that they've put together that picks things based on other sets of criteria, not just songs or genres.
Yeah,
Like it's this time of day, I'm doing this, feeling this, it's playing
yeah.
this.
Situational playlists,
That.
really. So that's kind of cool.
Playlists. I like that.
And it's
Well-
pocket change. I mean, at that
Yeah.
price, I mean, for Google, it's pocket change. Obviously, I'm not
Right.
going to whip out my 39 million and go buy a competitor. But I mean, if they would have done this and said we bought it because we needed a better name, I would have been like, okay, 39 million well spent. Good job, guys. But it's possible that there is some underlying technology that they want. They might want the talent. Who knows? But good for them.
I
Somebody
say more
got paid.
power to them.
Right.
What else? Mike, did you see the, what was that Microsoft thing that they were talking about just recently? I can't even think of what the name is now. You know, though.
With Android?
Yeah.
Oh,
Having
the Microsoft's new Android phone. Yes.
Oh yeah, the Nokia X, right?
Yeah, I've forgotten the name of it. You know, it's Microsoft throwing something new up against the wall to see if it'll stick. I get what they're
Yeah.
doing. They want people using this. So that phone comes loaded with Outlook and OneDrive and their Office web apps and Skype, whatever the other services are, and that drives adoption to their installed service base. Okay, well, it kind of feels like a big yawn to me. It's not a product aimed at us guys. It's a product aimed at entry-level buyers.
so, do you think this is the Ken Part 2, or do you think they've learned something from that debacle years ago?
Well, if this product lasts more than a week, they'll have learned something.
This is true. This is true.
I don't know. I kind of felt like the Ken was going for the juvenile market, and I feel this is more like sort of the underdeveloped world
Yeah.
phone alternative.
Yeah, the Ken was a weird phone. It was really tiny compared to others, at the time. And yeah, I do think the audience was aimed for more of the teen, tween, that kind of, you know, demographic, as opposed to like adults, which are the ones that mostly end up buying the phones. So
I mean, the thing that really strikes me more than anything is, uh, if I'm going to have an Android phone, I sure as shooting want to have the Google apps and the
Right.
Gmail, the calendar, the maps, the search that go with Android. Give me a break. What's the point otherwise? But like I
Now,
said, I'm not their target market.
yeah.
you
So what
mentioned the
apps do you get
whole.
with this?
On
mean,
the
what app
Nokia
store?
X, you
Yeah.
get a Microsoft-based Android app store, and they basically talk about, oh, you can sideload apps, and they're aiming for developing markets. But the problem is it's a very low-end phone, so like all the people that have been wanting a Nokia Android device for years, they're still not really getting it. They're not getting a premium device. They're getting a really low-end device. It doesn't even compare well with Microsoft's own Windows phones of the similar price point and performance. So
I think you just nailed it, Nick. So this is either the worst hedge ever, or it's Microsoft wanting to be able to show, no, look at that Android stuff. That sucks. Please come
yeah,
over to Windows 8.1.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't compare well even to like the 520 that Mike picked up, a few months ago. I mean, it just doesn't. So
Look at that in
Mm.
comparison to the news from last week with Google going into emerging markets and having the lower end phones and having all of the control over it as far as updates and so
yeah,
forth. So Google is probably not even going to bat an eye at this whole Nokia X thing, right? Because of the hardware is sort of limited.
yeah,
Yeah.
You have the Moto G. You have other lower end devices.
yeah,
Everyone wants that market because they've completely saturated this one. We've all got phones. We've all picked sides. We're either Samsung or HTC or Moto X or whatever, at least for 2 years, and then we'll pick sides again depending on what's what.
The thing is,
The
in my
problem with
opinion, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Eric.
The problem with Google's strategy with what they announced at Google I/O 2014 is that it assumes that people care. It assumes that the people that are buying these phones in the emerging markets, that they're going to notice the difference. Like most, these are people that most of the time when they buy a phone, it's preloaded with so much crapware and malware and viruses, yet they're still perfectly happy, most of them, because
Right.
their needs are way different than what they might be for a lower end phone market here in the States. So I think it's a really good idea. I just don't know that it's going to hit this, it's going to hit the right chord or hit as heavy as they think it might. Just because it's a good experience, I'm not sure it's really going to matter as much as they think.
You know what gets me is even with all of that in place, as far as having these lower end phones at a decent price, we're still going to have those. Get your Moto X for free down the road. I mean, how is that going to bite into the OEM's market share? Do they make enough on the front end, or is most of their money made on the back end of that stuff? Even with like the S4, I think they're giving away the S4 nowadays in most carriers and stuff too.
The
So
money's made in the contract, right?
Yeah. For the carriers certainly, yeah. I mean, because they're going to buy millions of these phones anyways. So I mean, they've already made their commitment
they
on that
already
end.
made it up front. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I mean,
Made it
now
up
it's
front.
just how can they make money from their customers? And so they've got all this stuff in stock. They can make whatever deals they want to get customers into whatever. You can buy $1 phone on contract on some of these carriers, and it's really a pretty decent phone, but you end up paying through the subsidy built into the contract. So.
But I agree with you. You're not going to hear any of those people saying, first world problems. They're not. They're just not. They're happy to get what they get.
I would be curious to see like what the list of most complained about complaints at the complaint department are in those markets, because I bet they're different, like completely different than what we complain about in these markets, right?
They probably say something like, my USB charger won't stay plugged in. A real problem.
I got
Unlike
sand down
us,
in
this
the
thing
basement.
ain't fast enough.
Yeah.
I can't cast my Chromecast. I'm guessing that's probably number one.
Yeah, right. There's no content here. I don't understand. Let's see. Any other thoughts on that, Mike? Anybody?
No, I'm just sort of stuck in neutral here, imagining life on Android without Google services.
Right.
Take away my Google Maps, and my, I guess, Waze would go too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm going to post this into the rundown, but there's a comparison on Phone Arena between the Nokia Lumia 520 and the Nokia X, the one with Android. And the Nokia 520 is like about half the price, real world, compared to the Nokia X, and it's got better specs. So I mean, I don't understand what the Nokia X serves, and that's the first one. There's now a Nokia X2 out, which is only marginally better. But I haven't looked at the specs, but I don't see what this Android version of a Nokia phone really does when it can't even compete with the Microsoft Windows Phone alternative, much less Android. So
I think Mike said it best with Me Too product.
Me too.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I want Microsoft to pull it together, but it just keeps not happening.
Michael King in the chat says, "I will stay on my iPhone and iOS." Well, and that's you mentioned about imagine a life without, the Google services. We were talking about the black phone, and that's kind of the only scenario where you would want a device that really doesn't have all of these features, right? Because you're trying to keep it as secure as possible. But normal everyday users, of course. Let's see, Eric, tell us about the LG Chrome base. The cloud desktop is coming to our.
Yeah.
This is exciting.
I thought this was great because I actually use my Chromebook about as much as I use my, let's call it my real computer, the one I'm on right now. So the LG Chrome base is basically just it's a touchscreen desktop, like think iMac, but it's running Chrome OS. But I don't even know how much an iMac costs nowadays. I mean, this is probably
about
a quarter of
$1,000.
the price.
$8 million.
Too much.
A Songza.
Yeah. It's a song. Probably. So this thing is $329 right now on Amazon, and I thought it was really cool because it shows how Chrome OS is breaking out a little bit from the laptop space.
Yeah.
And I could totally see this being if I had desk space and if I had a spouse that was a little bit more understanding about having a seventh computer, it's something that I'd really enjoy.
Only
Yeah, I mean-
7? What's the problem?
Thank you, Mike.
It's the
There's
fact
no
that
understanding in this relationship.
they're probably not all in one room. They're probably all spread about the house,
It's
A
true.
computer
Well,
in every
it's a
room.
convenience.
right?
Convenience factor.
Terminals everywhere. Like, just gotta check my pine real quick. Hold on, honey.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the advantages to these Chrome bases is that it's an all-in-one computer essentially. It doesn't take up much space, and it's actually a pretty decent screen. It's a 21.5-inch screen, 1080p, which is the smallest you tend to get a 1080p on a computer screen. So that's pretty decent. Yeah, and it's pretty cool. I mean, yeah, so.
Someone asked me about it on Google Plus earlier today. Tim McCusker, I believe is who it was. And I was like, in a word, hell yeah. Go ahead and do that because he was wanting to do it for his kids. And my example, my kids, they don't touch my Chromebook very often, but when they do, they're very comfortable with it. Why? Because they know Google Chrome. And they just jump right down and do what they need to do,
Everything you do is in that browser.
Just about, yeah.
I mean, yeah. All of our disposable computing is done in the browser.
Google has really been pretty brilliant about the strategy of rolling out these Chrome notebooks. If I were Microsoft, I'd be very, very worried.
They're pretty, for sure. I would like one, I think. I definitely like the way they look, and they don't take up much room. I would probably rather have that than a Chromebook like laptop, just because I wouldn't carry it around with me. It would just live in the studio.
I'd like to have both if I had the space for one more thing on this desk here. But the Chromebook is the way I gotta go now. I freaking love that thing. I use it more and more now than I ever realized I'd use it.
The Chromebook, what do you do with it, Ant?
Is basically research and writing and keeping up with social, and it's all so quick.
Yeah.
And like
anything,
WordPress, right? You could do anything really that's web in it.
Yeah, I use mine at work for meetings. Whenever we do our weekly meetings, I have my Chromebook that I use for that. So it's pretty decent. So I can do everything I need to there. I can load up the portal that we use and all that other stuff that we deal with. So.
And it's not heavy. It's light.
Tablets.
What's that,
Say
Larry?
it again, Larry?
I did a review, a Chromebook thing. For me, a Chromebook kicks a tablet's butt.
I think so.
I think that's maybe the tablet sales are starting to tail off, and I think maybe that's part of the reason why.
Yeah.
But don't get me
Larry,
wrong, Larry. My tablet still has a place in my heart.
Where do you use the tablet and not the Chromebook?
As I'm walking around and reading emails, walking through the house kind of thing.
Yeah, it's still a little bit more mobile, and you don't need to place it on anything. You can hold it, and you can be moving around, or you can lay down in bed. You don't have to worry about propping it up anywhere, that kind of stuff. So.
And I think airports also, I would rather just travel with a tablet than like a full Chromebook, just because.
Some Chromebooks are so small and.
Yeah.
Right
I like Anne's vision of just perusing through the courtyard, checking emails and status updates, all
Yeah.
I do that a lot, even at the office.
You guys walk into poles if you do that, man.
It'll be all right. I just knocked the pole over. It'll be all right.
That is a risk we're willing to take, sir.
I'll give you an application for that little desktop thing. That's kind of cool. I'm sitting in a room right now. I guess my video is. Time Warner is really putting it to me. But I'm sitting in a room with 3 PCs.
Yeah.
And basically what it is, it's a kid arcade room. And it could just as easily be 3 of those little Chromebooks.
It sure could.
Chrome, whatever you call them, Chrome desktops.
Chrome.
That looks like a killer.
It sure could.
So, to Larry's point and to Mike's point, so Mike, you said that Microsoft, they should be worried about this, and I think they definitely are, and it sort of fits in with what Larry said about, could this replace tablets? Because it did for me. It replaced my 10-inch, and if you look, there's a story I just threw into the doc that I read yesterday, and it was talking about how Los Angeles school districts are shifting away from the iPad to Windows and Chromebook. So and we've seen a lot of, Google's put in so much money into getting Chromebooks into schools that I think that it really could create a shift away from tablets, and I think that it really could create a shift away from Windows as we move into a world where, for 90% of people, they're doing all their work in a web browser.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And one thing, you can lock down a notebook or a Chromebook, and you can't really do that for a tablet. There's Kensington locks pretty much as a standard on any sort of a notebook of any type. So that's something that you tend to want in a school district. So you can give them iPads, which are really expensive, or you can give them another type of a tablet, which can be less expensive, or you can get them a Chromebook for a couple $100 at an educational discount price, and then lock it down to the classroom. So, or a Chrome base for not much more, for a much larger screen. So.
Well,
That's another thing.
Is anyone in this panel at all interested in a Microsoft Surface tablet? You know, the Surface Pro 3, it's thin, it's lightweight, it's got a long battery life.
I would have been more interested in a Surface Mini, but they canned that idea, so they're just going with the Surface 3, the larger one. And that's interesting to me, but to me that's a little bit too large for a tablet. But anyway, so that's my personal take.
I like the Surface Pro 3 myself, Mike. I just couldn't afford it. I also like the Samsung Note Pro, the 12-inch one.
Yeah.
I like that too. I have a couple colleagues that owns one of those, and I remember seeing it at CES and was thinking, man, a 12-inch tablet is too big. But when you think about it being, somewhat of a laptop replacement with the little detachable keyboards and stuff, that as well as the Surface Pro, I think it would work. I just couldn't afford that price range. Even with the Chromebook stuff, I still have a limit on that because of what the OS is currently capable of doing.
Exactly.
I'm not going to spend too much more. I think that $300 for that Chrome base is the right price for that.
And you're gonna like the next version of Chromebooks. They'll be faster for the same prices. Maybe you'll like that better. You guys are talking about Microsoft. My guess is Microsoft sees the handwriting on the wall, and they're going to try to get all their Office and all this stuff, everything they do, browser-based as quickly as they can. What do you guys think of that?
I agree.
I think you're right, Larry. It's just a question of how many users are they going to have left, and how much further along is Google going to be by the time Microsoft really gets its act together.
Well, and I guess I don't know. How does the current versions of Google, all the Google Drive apps, the spreadsheet and all that, how do they compare to what Microsoft has? Isn't Microsoft going to be able to compete well with that, with the Office? Like, have you guys? I haven't. Have you fiddled with Office on the iPad? Is it cool?
I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't. I don't
No,
know
but I
an
was trying to
iPad.
sign up for. Oh, sorry, Ian.
I said no. I don't own an iPad. I'd like to see it though.
Yeah. Like I've got a what do they call it? A OneDrive account.
Yep.
And that's really cool, man. I mean, it does. I don't know. I'm sure there's some subtle difference, but I don't see any big functional difference between that and Google Drive. And Microsoft. I mean, how many Word users are there? How many PowerPoint users are there? I think they can still do really well against Google in applications like that.
They just need to keep evolving.
I hope.
Well, they need to keep evolving so they can stay competitive. They've had that competitive advantage for decades, really, but you're seeing these other services like the Google services compete and in some ways do better. So Microsoft is real slow to pivot or to change or to adapt, and so they just need to keep working on it. Like IE has been really slow to catch up with Chrome and Firefox, for example, and that's just one app, and just historically they've been slow. They'll make a change, they're going in the wrong direction, takes a year to figure out they're going in the wrong direction, and eventually decide to revert these changes, and they're losing billions of dollars in doing so.
That's because they were so committed to Windows. But what if they're starting to think of themselves as an Office company now, and we want Office to run everywhere? And oh well, Windows is last decade. It seems to me on that, they have a good chance to do better than Google Docs.
Yeah. Oh, I know that they split up their divisions to where it's more. They've redesigned the company to where like they have a division for like Windows, a division for Office, essentially a division, obviously for Xbox and other devices. Now they have their own hardware division that includes phones. So they're adjusting a little bit to be more like Apple in that aspect, but it took them years to do that.
But maybe that's why they got this new CEO. I mean, maybe that's his trip. Hey, let's let Office go crazy, and if it beats.
Well, he comes from their cloud services division. I'm not even sure what it was called, but he's a big cloud-centric guy, and everything he wants to do, he wants to have functionality built in for cloud with that service. So that's why you're going to see, Xbox One when it was announced, like 300,000 servers, is the back end for all the cloud services and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, they're going to focus more on the cloud because other companies have been, like Google and to some extent Apple. So that's their new focus, their real big focus right now, cloud services.
Where I see Microsoft falling down in their or lagging in their Office web apps is in collaboration. I still think Google has set the standard very high for collaborative tools within Google Docs. And I know that's on the Microsoft web apps roadmap, but boy, they've got a long ways to catch up.
What are the collaboration tools? Just Google Docs, Mike?
Like simultaneous editing? Can you do that?
Simultaneous editing. 3, 4,
That's
5.
about the only thing, right? Is the Google Docs?
What if QuickBooks goes into Chrome OS? There's so many offices and businesses I go into that, like, the secretary, she runs QuickBooks. She's on a PC, like full PC, and then just doing a bunch of browser stuff, Facebook, etc. But you need that. We need it too at our office to run the books, obviously. I think you could do that in Chrome OS, and then you could totally get rid of, like, there's a huge market there you could replace with Chrome OS. Not worry about security updates, not worry about any of that crap that happens in offices because people click on stuff. I mean, you still have to worry about some, but
Well, can't you currently do that? Isn't there QuickBooks Online?
Yeah, but I don't think it's like full functionality, like to run a business that you would need. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't looked. We're still trying to get out of this old like Linux database thing and put it all in. But yeah.
You're still messing with the tab 3.
What you can find is QuickBooks is hosted QuickBooks, where someone will stand up a application server and serve you QuickBooks, and Quicken licenses a number of providers to sell that.
Intuit, yeah.
Intuit does.
But it's like a lot of the same functionality. We can have it open in 2 spots in 2 different computers and make changes to the tables and everything. It seems like you would want something like that in Chrome OS.
I get that, like, what we're talking about is kind of collaboration, but Shane Brady clued me into this website, this app called Slack, and if you go look at that, like, that to me seems like what Google and Microsoft and everybody should be doing for collaboration. Because it has the chat, it has everything all built into one. Where, in essence, when we say collaboration nowadays, all we are talking about, or all most people are talking about, is simultaneous editing, which, I don't know, it doesn't seem very interesting to me anymore.
That's just one feature among many, basically, and apparently Slack does a lot more than that, like with chat built in. So I've not personally used it myself. I have heard of it. I think you had mentioned it to us and/or Shane on a AOTA episode, but yeah, pretty cool.
But Eric, you remember when simultaneous editing first happened, and we were like, "That is pretty."
Blew my mind.
Right?
I still miss Google Wave.
Now you
I'm not gonna lie.
Face of it and take it for granted. That's fine, Eric.
No, I'm just saying.
Facebook, Eric.
How many years ago was that?
Play your little Facebook games and just be on Facebook, Eric. And
Get my emojis. Hold on.
Just get your
gosh.
Frowny face.
I'm going to be like Mike, play the old fart card, but everything you guys are talking about was running at Xerox PARC in 1970.
That's true. Have you been watching that show? What's that show called? Halt and Catch Fire. Halt and Catch Fire.
No. What it's
Halt
about?
and burn notice.
About that. About like the first IBM clones, reverse engineering the BIOS and all that crap.
Oh yeah, I watched one episode of that. Has it gone on? How is it?
It's all right. I don't know. I've been watching it. It's not the greatest, but it's all right. It's
Never
not
heard of it.
Pirates of Silicon Valley or anything.
Is Silicon Valley going to have another season? Speaking of that,
I sure hope so.
I hope so.
Oh,
You know,
God, I hope so.
that seemed dumb the first episode. I got really hooked on it.
It's so good.
I'll keep going. You will cringe, you will laugh, and then it will make you rethink your life. It's a really good show.
I remember that episode. Oh man. All right, Eric, tell us about this horrendous Facebook study.
I don't know too much about it. I'm not the expert, but apparently Facebook decided to purposely show some people certain stories that might be positive, certain stories that might be negative in their feeds to see how it affected their mood.
So what this comes
but-
down to is Facebook may or may not have been responsible for a couple school shootings, perhaps. Showing too many sad pictures makes people angry. But you can't tell me like you have all these people looking at screens. Like you wouldn't be tempted at all to be like, I wonder what happens if we show them cats.
Yeah, Facebook made me do it instead of Doom made me do it, I guess.
Well, Facebook screws around with what they show you in order to get you to click on things.
Yeah,
But
because they like money.
They in the news feed they filtered out. They randomly selected a lot of people and filtered out happy stories, and another group they filtered out sad stories. And lo and behold, the postings those people made subsequently were affected, in a statistically significant way, but not, they didn't go out and kill themselves or anything.
This is kind of like what Charles Manson
Pissed off that it was doing research without getting permission from the subject.
Notified, yeah. I mean, you weren't told you were being in that study or being subjected to that type of
But that would ruin.
change.
If you were told, that would ruin it. You can't be told. Plus, it's their site. Like you're using their stuff. I mean, I don't care either way. I think it's kind of amusing that that's what they're doing with all of this, with all of us. But it's their stuff. You're using their stuff. They could show you D's all day, and you couldn't do a thing about it because it's their stuff.
Yeah, for me, that's what this story says, which is it confirms my worst fears about Facebook, which is that there are a bunch of people at the other end of that service that are just running it for their own amusement.
Well, this was, the other thing. This was done by, it was a university research project.
Yeah.
And the way people learned about it was they published a paper on the results. So, and in the university, if you're going to do experiments on subjects, you have to either get, like somebody said, signed consent, or you have to get a review board at your university to approve it. And I guess from in the academic world, that sounds a little bit dodgy. But,
Yeah, and the thing is, the way they got around that was essentially by working with Facebook and their terms of condition. That's basically,
Facebook's, they're clear. It says in there, the thing that everybody clicks on, hey, you can do whatever you want, dude.
yeah. We may experiment on you like lab rats.
Yes.
Clearly, you didn't read the terms of service, Kyle.
Yeah.
Actually, nobody ever has.
No one. Yeah, that's unfortunately no.
Actually, one guy in Alaska read them one winter.
He's dead now.
Yeah.
He's still reading it, actually.
Yeah, still working on it. But
I doubt it, but I would love it if this like created some sort of outcry and turned into like it brought some light to this idea that terms of services are BS.
And
that-
what, everyone got mad and went to diaspora? What do you want to happen?
No, I this whole thing where courts have upheld that like that you can be held legally liable if you break terms of service. I would love it if they said no, that's bullcrap. Go away. If you want somebody to commit to something, actually have them sign a contract. Like the terms of services have just become a way that lawyers can copy and paste and then make a quick buck.
Funny,
I'm sure half of the stuff aren't even relevant in terms of service for most organizations or services.
have any of you guys ever, even once, thoroughly read one of those things before you
No.
quit?
Are you crazy?
Only the
I-
ones that make you scroll to the end before it'll let you click OK.
Okay,
Like,
well, yeah,
I
but
know you didn't read that stuff.
But no,
I
Facebook-
read.
You're not reading it. You're reading for the box that says OK, and then you're clicking that.
I read the terms of service for getting a vanity URL.
Oh, you did, and that's why your URL is still like a random string of encrypted hash.
Exactly. Exactly, because there was a piece in there that talked about how they could own certain content or something. It was something to that effect where whatever I posted under that, they had the right to keep it or some shit like that. And I said, nope.
We basically
That
own your
sounds legit.
Let-
Tonight's
you know,
Yats brought to you by Google. We're in your head.
I'll tell you a related thing. I've noticed in my behavior, maybe you guys are the same. These things where you use Facebook or Google or somebody to sign on to a website, instead of setting up your own account.
I do all the
Yep.
time. It's
Okay. I used to read those things and say, "Oh, why do they need to see my address?" But I used to get, and sometime I wouldn't do it, and I'd set up an independent account. Now I say screw it and click on them. Do you
If
guys
that's Black Phone, you wouldn't worry about that because it would just send.
giving up? Yeah.
I don't even know what you would call it. It's like people are exasperated with all of this stuff. Like they just don't care anymore. It's like when you download an app and then Google I'm guessing trying to do the right thing. They show you how many permissions this app wants. And you're making that judgment call in your head. You're probably not even looking at it. You're saying, you know what? But I really just want to access Facebook.
It's all or nothing, though. That's
app.
the problem. If you could actually go through that list and say yes, no, yes, yes, no, yes, no, people would be more in tune. They would be less fatigued with it.
Yeah, but say
Yeah.
you can't really say no or yes to any of it. You're basically having to say yes to all of it.
It's all
You're
or
just
nothing.
looking down for that yes button. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm,
All right,
I'm
Larry.
putting this here in chat there. This is from the terms of service for your vanity URL. This is another thing.
We may start charging.
Custom URLs
Once
are-
a million people know your URL.
So
Once we got you hooked, baby.
I'm not gonna use a custom URL right now. I just give them whatever it is out there. And hell, most people can just go to Google and type in Ant Pruitt or Larry Press. 9 times out of 10, your freaking Google Plus profile is gonna come up first anyway. So
Especially
That's
if you're
true.
typing
Vanity.
into Google.
Eric's mom. Yeah, totally. That's totally her. I'll screen share. Hold on. No,
Well, I mean, if you're active, you're likely going to show up first, as opposed to someone that had it and then never used it. So.
well, that and remember the auth.rel link. Like if you use that in any of your
Yeah.
blogs or anything, that will also help that. But all right, speaking of Google, I'm kind of curious about this. I want Larry to tell us about Eric Schmidt going to Havana, possibly.
Yeah, no, he went.
Did he? He did.
He and 3 other executives who I don't recall.
Tell us about it. What
They
what's
went to
going on?
Havana. They were there for a couple days. He did a blog post describing the trip. They met with they went to this one university, this kind of tech university in Havana, and they met with some dissident bloggers. Do you guys know Joanny Sanchez? Does that name ring a bell?
You told us
Negative.
about her, didn't you?
I don't know if I told you, but I'll tell you now. She was the first really kind of rock star dissident blogger in Cuba, but there's a bunch of them now. So she organized a meeting with them, and they met with unnamed government officials. And the reason they gave for the trip was to, quote, promote a free and open internet. And if you guys don't know, you could probably guess, Cuba is one of the least connected nations on the planet. They don't instead of just filtering stuff and blocking stuff, they just don't let people be able to afford access. So that's what happened. And here's a piece of totally wild ass speculation. Could it be that Google is thinking of maybe at least feeling out the guys to do a moonshot of providing connectivity to Cuba, the Cubans. And I've blogged about this quite a bit, but Google has made significant investments in satellite and high altitude platform connectivity projects. And that Cuba can't afford real fiber infrastructure at this point. They've got a cable coming to the island, but they don't have any infrastructure to speak of on the island. And so it seems to me that if Cuba would go for it, which I think is an extremely long shot, satellite connectivity could really make a difference in that country, and Google maybe is in a position to provide it. So, but that's pure speculation, wishful thinking. But anyhow,
So Larry, you
of
probably know more about this than I do, but I mean, is Google in a legal spot to provide access? Like, would they be allowed to as a U.S. company?
Okay, actually the way the laws are now, I think maybe yes, but you're right. It would take it's a three hurdle problem. One is the technology, but the other two problems are much tougher. Are the U.S. government embargo, and the toughest of all, Cuba's willingness to let people have connectivity.
They would have to have their own like facility or business or whatever actually in Cuba to even have a leg to stand on to even offer that service. You know,
Cuba would take vast policy change in Cuba, no doubt. That's why I say this is a political moonshot more than technical. I did a blog post a while ago. I mean, this could be done with huge satellite internet connectivity could do it if Cuba would let it. What Cuba has done, their track record so far is not too good. As people try, as USAID, your State Department, the American government, has tried a couple of times. Yes, has tried a couple of times to sneak home satellite equipment into Cuba, and one got busted, and one actually the guy bringing it in got caught, and he's now in prison for 15 years. It's a real infamous case. But so the Cuban government would have to totally change its attitude. And there are two things blocking that. I think one is political fear, and the other is that the internet in Cuba is controlled by the government, and it's a source of income. And I don't think they would like a competitor. So it's a long shot, but I just couldn't help speculating about it, wishing that it could happen. I've done a couple of pretty long blog posts along those lines. But anyhow, Eric Schmidt went there. Why did he go? I don't think he went just for the hell of it. And I wonder if they didn't discuss something like, instead of Google Fiber, Google Air. Because Google's got, now they've got this, what is it, O3B deal. They're going to have 8 satellites. They will have continuous coverage. They'd be able to serve Cuba or anybody else in the, within 45 degrees of the equator. So they're up to something. They're not just screwing around with this stuff. I don't know. If not Cuba, they will connect they'll connect all those people with the $100 cell phones.
Yeah.
You also wrote about Stockholm and their 19 years of municipal internets. Is that working out well for them? It seems it is, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Stockholm has, I hear a dog. I don't think it's mine. Somebody got.
I don't have dogs anymore, so it must be Dad.
Yad went to bed. Oh well. Stockholm. I just did a post on a report, sort of a 19-year status report, and they have had this what they call Stock AB, Stock Incorporated, which is a company a corporation that's owned by the city of Stockholm. So it's a municipal outfit. And they are not a retail internet service provider, but they are a wholesale provider of access to underground tunnels, to dark fiber, to rooms where companies can put equipment and interchange packets. And then they invite anybody that wants to be an ISP or a commercial a customer on top of that. And yeah, I mean, it's worked out very, very, very well. And they just did a report sort of summarizing how well it's worked out over the 19 years that it's been in existence. And, you know, they should every FCC, every executive in the whole world should have to read that and respond to his people. I mean, if I lived in Sweden now, in Stockholm, I would not be even worrying about not having Google Fiber, and I wouldn't be hating Time Warner Cable and so on and so forth. Check out, I put in the rundown a graph showing the return on that investment. And by the way, StockApp doesn't cost the Swedish taxpayer a penny. It breaks even. It makes a profit.
Wow.
Yeah. So that is, as far as I know, the oldest. There are many others, but it's the oldest municipal wholesale networking effort around. I did a blog post about 10 years ago, something about, you know, geez, if you lived in Stockholm, you'd be getting this, whatever it was at the time, 50 megabits per second for $20 a month. I don't remember these, but I mean, it's just wonderful.
It can work there, but it can't work here, is what you're saying.
I think it could work here fine if it weren't for the political and lobbying power of Time Warner.
Yeah, I mean, they're enforcing fairness, right?
These bastards. Yeah, I used to live in Sweden. Makes me want to move back. No.
Do you think
cold.
that
Stockholm is a
think
very
that-
livable city.
Yeah, it's cold as shit, don't mind. Hey, I got there on Midsummer's Day and it was freezing and raining. But anyhow, go on. Sorry, Aaron.
No, that's why I want to do. So, do you agree with Tom Wheeler when he says that the big problem with internet in America is that states need to get out of the way of these
Absolutely.
cities and municipalities?
That is such a positive thing. Everybody's saying, making fun of him that he's came from the cable industry and all that, lobbyist, blah blah blah. But when he says that, I think that's really encouraging because that is there's something like 19 states that have laws against municipalities doing networks. And for sure, I'm glad to hear him say that. I don't know if he has any authority to make it happen. I don't know any about that, but he sure is saying it, and I take that as a real positive step in the right direction. Go, Tom.
That's cool.
Did you guys see the thing that, what's the guy's name? Oliver, the comedian?
John Oliver.
Did you see that thing he did on
Yes.
internet connectivity and
Yes.
network neutrality?
Did you see the rebuttal and then the rebuttal to the rebuttal?
I saw the rebuttal, but not the rebuttal.
So good. The FCC guy was like, "Clearly, I'm not a dingo."
Yeah, he was funny though. I mean, I like that guy. Yeah, not Oliver. But what was the rebuttal?
I think he basically said you can't actually prove that you're not a dingo or something like that. I don't remember. Did you guys see this? The Massachusetts top court, they ruled that a criminal suspect can be ordered to decrypt the seized computer.
Wow.
Before that was part of incriminating yourself, right? But, yeah, so I thought that was interesting. A good article on Ars Technica. We'll link to in the show notes if you want to read more about it. I just wanted to mention that.
Well, one thing just to throw out there is that with this case, what I'm reading is that the person in question stated that the incriminating evidence was on the computer, and I am not a lawyer and I have no legal training, so I don't know why that makes a difference. But supposedly, because he had already said it's on there, it would be akin to saying, "Oh, the files you're looking for are in that safe," and that they can compel you because it's what they call a foregone conclusion that there is, that the evidence is in there and that you're just not letting anybody get to it. If he would have just kept his mouth shut and not said a thing, then, according to the Massachusetts ruling, he would not have had to give it up. So I don't know necessarily that it's as widespread or as far-reaching as what it is being made out to be, but it does make one pause for a moment.
Is it just in Massachusetts? This whole?
That was the court that
That was
ruled.
the court.
Just a state thing. For now, the Massachusetts Supreme Court. It only applies to the state. They say various other courts at the state and federal level have disagreed as to whether being forced to type in a decryption password is a violation of the Fifth Amendment right to protect against self-incrimination. And its state equivalents that they say Article 12 of the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights, for example. So I'll put a link to the show notes at yetanothertexture.com. We should probably wrap this thing up. You guys, it's been a fantastic 100 episodes. Thanks to Michael King in the chat for hanging out. Aunt Pruitt, anything you want to plug or mention? I know you got point and shoot tomorrow evening.
Tomorrow's point and shoot, and the subject at hand is summer panoramic shots. I wasn't able to participate because of the freaking rain here, or it's 200 degrees outside and my camera will melt. But but we
got
have
the white one, with the wood back.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, we got that going on, as well as just more content coming up on smartphone-photographers.com.
Nice. Anyone else got anything they want to mention? Nick, you got a video or anything you coming up with? You mentioned on AOTA last night.
Yeah, I finally came out with my Android L thoughts video. I sort of rambled for about 5 minutes on what I thought about the new version of Android that's coming out, some of its features, and how it's going to sort of unite a lot of the other devices out there that'll end up running it down the line, like your automobile with Android Auto, or your low-end smartphone with Android One, all that kind of stuff. So just had a video out on that. So I even made a sort of a late night rant before I went to bed. It was like why I love YouTube. So it was like me rambling for 10 minutes on YouTube about YouTube. So
13
and then of course
minutes.
Yeah, 13 minutes. Yeah, like I didn't know when to stop, so I just kept going.
It's always good to end the day that way, right?
Yeah.
Get it out there.
Yeah, and then other than that, of course, every Tuesday, Eric, myself, and occasionally Ant and some others join you on Attack the Androids. So just that's usually what's going on every week.
That's right. Tuesdays Attack of the Androids, Wednesdays YATS, Thursdays Point and Shoot. We almost have your week covered. And of course, check out indiedomain.net for a bunch of our cool tech writings from us and our friends. We're on Stitcher, we're on iTunes. If you subscribe in iTunes, make sure you give us a review. We appreciate that. And hang out on the major social networks. Get studied on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter and the Google Plus page and community. So, all right, guys, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Hasta luego.
Back next week for 101.
Yeah.
Yeah.